welcome to your weekly reminder that only dead fish go with the flow. This week we are sat in a very special living room, the living room of Frankie Allen, who is currently world champion, Olympic champion in the para mixed PR3.
Yeah, PR3 mixed Coxball.
And you have been reigning world champion for a few years now.
Yeah, since 2022. So when we came back from China, that was my 4th world championship title.
It's a pretty big flex.
It is really it is quite cool. It's when I sort of say it out loud, I'm like, whoa, that actually does sound really cool.
It is crazy. And watching you guys as well, it's like, I've got time to get a drink because I know this is going to go well.
That's what my friends say, but I'm like, it doesn't feel like that at all when we're racing. It's only when you watch it back that you're like, okay, that was okay. But when I'm racing, I'm like, oh, no, they're coming.
They're coming. That's the thing about doing, so because you're part of the GB rowing team, that's the thing about being a rower is you're watching the competition because you're always facing backwards. So even if you're miles ahead, like you often are, you're always like watching them. You're like, what if? It's almost not easier to be sort of side by side, like comes with peaks and troughs, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like you're so tunnel vision when you're racing anyway, and if you do see them in your peripherals, it's like they're suddenly there and you're thinking they're going to make a push, they're going to come and overtake. Yeah, but my friends are always older, like my family, they're like, why do you stress? And it's there is going to come a point where like the racing gets so close, and it was like close this summer, it was close last summer, and it is all changing around. So I think there is going to become a point where like the standards are all moving on, so we've just got to keep pushing.
It is really exciting, and LA is going to be 1,500 meters, so different again.
Yeah, I think even the racing this summer in China, it was so different. I think the nations are all switching to training for 1,500, and it makes the race look so different, and that's like the same in all events.
Yeah,
it's really exciting.
Nerve-wracking. For sure. Could you, I know we've obviously mentioned that you are part of the rowing team, but could you name and explain your sport?
So I'm part of the para rowing team, from the GB rowing team. Obviously I'm on the Paralympic side, and I'm in the PR3 mixed Cox 4, but within para rowing you've got PR1s, PR2s and PR3s. I'm in a mixed boat, and most para boats are mixed unless they're singles. So I've got 2 boys, 2 girls, and then a cox in my boat, and the cox doesn't have to have a disability. And then you've got a double, which is also in the PR3 category, and that's where PR3s is where you can use your legs, trunk and arms. So you're on a sliding seat, so it's very similar to how the Olympic side works. And then you've got PR2s, which is a double, a mixed double, so a boy and a girl, and they use their hips and their arms, but not their legs. And then you've got PR1s, which you can have, you have singles, so you can have a women's single, men's single, and they just use their arms.
Yeah, the worst kind of rowing.
Yeah.
Or actually the way that the general public maybe assume rowing is like big arms, big back.
Yeah.
But it's just in reality is more leg based. But there we go. How did you get into it, or what age did you get into it?
I think I was 12 when I first went out in a boat. But I was sort of taken along to regattas and stuff from quite a young age. So my uncle rowed, or my cousins rowed on that side. And so I'd sort of be dragged along to regattas to watch my cousins race, my uncle race, and I was like, oh, I really want to do that one day. So my uncle got me out in a single, up Thames actually, so just up the road.
Shout out.
Yeah. And he taught me to scull, and then I ended up going to Pangbourne College when I was 14, so in year 9, and they rowed there as well. So I carried on rowing there and then carried on at Brooks.
Yeah. Fab.
Yeah.
So you like a rowing nepo baby nearly?
I don't know.
Not quite.
Not quite. I guess like twice removed, because my parents don't row and none of the rest of my family row.
Like it doesn't count. It doesn't count. Well, you're like Paralympic gold.
Yeah.
I'm the original now. Could you sort of talk us through what you think the best and the worst parts are of the sport or of your experience so far?
I think the best parts are definitely the fact that you get to, like, I get to do a sport I love every day as a job. And so I feel really lucky to be able to do that. And I'm outside, you're exercising, you're being paid to exercise, like, and sometimes when it is going a bit rough, I am like, actually, I am quite lucky to be doing that, and I'm not sat in an office doing an office job, because that would just drive me insane. But I'd say the worst parts are definitely, again, sort of like contradicting the best parts, but the British weather.
Yeah, I was going to say January.
Yeah, any winter months, the cold, dark mornings, the rain, the cold, like when you're out on the lake or the river and you're just absolutely freezing. I'd say that is definitely the low parts. And then also I think the fact it takes up so much of your time, you do have to say no to quite a few things, and you don't get much of a social life in season, but then you have 3 weeks off, so you get to make up.
You've got to like absolutely chock-a-block that time off to make sure you see all of those friends, and you're like, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
I'm not boring either, I promise.
No, I feel so lucky that my friends are really understanding, but it is so annoying when they're like, should we do this? I'm like, I'm really sorry, I can't, I've got training. But it is what it is, and I love rowing, so
Just like,
doing something you hate.
Guilty, I do love those.
Yeah.
Disclaimer. What does like a standard training day or week look like for you?
So, 6 days a week? And you range from like 3 sessions or 2 sessions a day. And so on a 3-session day, you'd go in and you would do first session, which would be either on the water or on land, and it would sort of be like an aerobic session. So that would just be like a long, like 90 minutes or whatever. And then the second session would be, again, either on water or on land, another aerobic, whichever you didn't do first session. And then third session would be weights, like or S&C. And then on the 2-session days, we tend to do what we call pieces. So like harder, more intense bits of work that require more recovery. So you do like a pre-pad or a paddle in the morning on the water, and then you sort of do pieces second session, and then you get the afternoon off to recover.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I know how it works, but it still makes me tired anyway.
Yeah. And it sounds really good talking through it, but actually when you're in it and you're so tired, like you literally do come back and just sleep till the afternoon.
You're like, it's great, I'm done by like 3 or 4 and I do something I love every day, and then you're like, but I am tired.
Really tired.
95% of the time. Do you have a sport-specific ick?
I was thinking about this, and I think one that sticks out to me, and it's so rogue, but wearing leggings under lycra.
Ah, this is mine. This is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, because you actually see it more than you think you do, and in my head it just doesn't make sense. And when you see it, but then people that don't row would probably think it does make sense. Wearing like wearing leggings under shorts.
I think just as a fashion statement, it's not a thing.
No, and every time I see it, it's that's my rowing it. But I also think, just in general within sport, being really cocky and arrogant, like you could be the best rower in the world and still be humble, and that doesn't make you a worse rower. I think it is a rowing ick when people go around thinking that they own the place because they've done something. Like,
yeah, you're like, calm down, babe, this sport gets confused with canoeing all the time.
Anyone outside the rowing world doesn't care about rowing.
Like you could just be in a boat on the water and people call it rowing. Like, calm down.
Yeah, literally.
Nobody else knows.
Yeah.
I've literally, when I worked in coaching, I had a girl come down for a taster day, and she was like, yeah, I've got loads of experience in rowing. Like, we do it as a family holiday every time. It's great. It's one of my favourite sports. Take her down to the boat shed, show her all the rowing boats. I've never rowed in something like that. But she'd been on a kayaking holiday.
Oh.
She still joined, bless her, and gave it her best shot. And, a win's a win.
Yeah, exactly.
However you get into the sport. I mean, maybe one day she'll be doing some interview and she's like, yeah, got into completely the wrong sport by accident.
Yeah. And I think actually the canoeists get really annoyed because they get called rowers as well. Like, it is just in like swap between the two.
We've got silent beef.
Yeah.
that nobody else knows about.
Mm.
So the main section of our podcast is what we're dying on the hill about. So would you like to introduce what we're dying on the hill about? Because I know it's a personal passion of yours, and it
Yeah.
is sort of directing your career maybe after sport.
Yeah. So I'm dying on the hill about getting children with disabilities into sport, or just increasing their participation. I'm studying physiotherapy at uni, and the main reason why I wanted to go into physio was because of my disability. I had so much physio when I was younger, and that just like the impact that had on me to enable me to do everything that I can do today, to enable me to exercise, do sport, and everything like that. But I also had lots of physios, well, not lots of them, a couple when I was younger, that sort of said that I couldn't do things, which in turn pushed me to be able to to do them.
Do them anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I remember one of the physios when so she did home visits for me, and I must have been like 6 or 7, and she said, "What do you want to like be when you're older?" And I must have just been at one of my cousin's regattas or something. So I said, "I want to row. I want to be a rower." Um, and when I remember when she left the house, she said to my mum, and I sort of overheard it. She was like, "She's gonna have to find another sport because she'll never be able to row." And I mean, obviously, I heard that and then was like, well, I'm definitely going to row. And that was probably what pushed my uncle to be like, let's get her out on a boat as soon as she's old enough, or like grown enough. And that's sort of why I want to go into physio, because I want to be a physio that pushes people, like the kids, to do what they want to do. If they've got a goal, like to help them achieve the goal. Like, and I don't think any child should be discouraged from doing what they want to do.
Mm. And for context, would you sort of be happy to talk about your classification?
Yeah, so I'm PR3, and I've got a condition called Erb's palsy, which was caused from a birth injury. So basically, when I was born, I got stuck in delivery, and they had to pull me out. And when they pulled me out, it ripped the nerves in, or some of the nerves in my neck. And the nerves in your neck basically go and control all movement in your arm. So for the whole of, well, first 2 years of my life, I basically had a floppy arm. And my parents were just doing physio daily, basically just moving my arm around, just hoping there would be some sort of movement. But at that point, they didn't know to what extent the damage was. And then it was one day I had like a twitch in my shoulder or something, and then that showed that some of the nerves had repaired and there was some signals going through. So, I mean, I've managed to recover most of the movement in my arm, but I've still got lots of movements that I can't do, and some of the muscles haven't fully developed and stuff. But yeah, that's how it affects me.
This is our second take trying to do this because the internet dropped out. But I was saying to Frankie, like, the ultimate goal in rowing is to have like that loose inside arm, and that's the side that is your inside arm. So you've got like every rower's dream in terms of that like relaxed inside. You just slot the blade in.
Yeah. Like, even if I was trying to row with my inside arm, it wouldn't be very productive because there's not much strength there anyway.
Like, I'm absolutely nailing this. But it is really interesting, and I think the conversation around like sport in general, but physios in general, and like what we actually can do is shifting. And I've worked with some juniors before who have had various different disabilities, and it's not difficult to make adaptations to make it inclusive.
Yeah.
You just have to be a bit more imaginative, and I wouldn't say patience, but it's a steadier process.
Yeah.
But often the children that I've worked with who have worked with 4 different children who've had a range of disabilities, they are the ones that are trying the hardest out of anyone. And it is so sad that, you can just be written off so quickly if somebody's not got the patience to like understand how this affects you, and then also how can we make this sport like inclusive. And I do always find it wild that like para athletes or athletes with disabilities choose rowing, because I just think, oh my god, water is just such a hazard for everyone.
Yeah.
But it does bring like such a sense of freedom to people, like being out on the river and being with nature and all of that stuff, the bird crap and
Yeah. The landing stage.
I was gonna say the angry fisherman.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, like for all sport, like para sports as well, like from speaking to people, like going out to the Paralympics, it was just the most inspiring thing for myself as well, because like you go around and you see such a different range of disabilities and everyone is just going about their daily life absolutely fine. And you don't need everyone like, what's the word, like body coddling?
I was gonna say like putting you in cotton wool packaging
Yeah,
sort
you
of
don't need
thing.
people like running around like making sure you're fine. Like everyone, like they're independent, and like from speaking to different people, like the most common thing is that sport makes people feel independent, and it's like their freedom, like their impairments aren't something that's holding them back, because they're like pushing the barriers and being able to perform to such a high standard. And I think that's just such a nice thing for like sport in general, is that it is a lot of people's freedom.
Yeah. One of the things that I sort of picked up on when I was prepping for our interview was that some of the main sort of reasonings for why sport is good for children with disabilities is social, like opens up a whole different sort of friendship group, confidence, stamina, strength, mobility, like all of these different aspects that you wouldn't necessarily just experience by just going to school or just staying in like an environment that is like you said, like cotton wooled.
Yeah, and it's all like the teamwork, leadership, like all that stuff that then you take in, all those skills you then take into your normal life. Like there's so many sports people, elite sports people that have gone into work and they've said that a lot of the skills that they've learned is through their sport.
I saw something that was really relevant to this, and it was an interview with Billie Jean King, the tennis star, if you like, and she was talking about specifically sport for women, but it's relevant to the conversation because we're talking about the sport being for everyone.
Yeah.
She was saying that sport is so important for women because it teaches us how to be leaders and it teaches us to make decisions in intense environments and just get over it.
Yeah.
Like make the decision. If it goes well, fine. If it goes badly, analyze it and then get over it. And she was sort of, that was her, I guess, hill to die on in that interview, was it teaches us how to be leaders. It teaches us confidence. It teaches us to be able to make decisions that maybe society wouldn't push us into.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
And the other part of it was like 90% of women in C-suite positions did sport as a child. I just think that's crazy. It is. It's my favourite one at the moment. Everyone who listens to podcasts is going to be so sick of it. Bam, again.
But it is so true though, isn't it? Like as soon as you step onto the sport playing field, in inverted commas, whatever that is, everyone's on a level playing field, and like it works, like people can work together. It's also inclusion of so many different people that I guess outside of sport you may not, unfortunately, you may not get in the real world. You don't get inclusion of like everyone. And it's just sports like it's such a cool thing, but to get kids into it, because the next generation coming up, they can then all take that into their wider life.
Yeah. I'm looking to my left. I can see you've got a big old mind map with lots of different bits. So talk me through it, because you are so prepared.
I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I was speaking to my sister, and she does psychology at uni, and she had just done a lecture on the perception of disability in the media. So I got her to send me her lecture slides as well.
Fantastic.
So interesting. But I think it basically, like, it comes under it's sort of like an umbrella for 5 different subsections. I think that's one, the accessibility of like equipment. So like the financial side, like equipment costs money, prosthetic legs cost so much money, and you don't like you don't even realise that there's one of the Irish rowers actually that's he's talking about at the moment. He's trying to advocate for to get funding for prosthetics in sport, because it's like thousands and thousands of pounds, and sometimes people need multiple prosthetics for different areas of training.
Okay.
So that can be a barrier to like competing in sport at a high level or at all. But then also like in a practical side, like the environment, the accessibility in environments and buildings, like whether wheelchairs can get through, whether
Is
there's
there a step?
yeah, and it's so many things that you don't like. Even doorways, are doorways wide enough? Like it's a lot of things that you don't necessarily consider until you're in that environment. And like there are actually so many places that I now go to and I'm like, this is just so rubbish because it's not accessible. Like, and we shouldn't be living now in a world that's not accessible. Like, do you like in Paris it was such a eye opener, I guess, because like the Paralympic Village, everyone was going about absolutely fine. And yes, they put a ramp in, but everything else was the same to the Olympic Village. But then you go to outside the village and you can't get wheelchairs down the subway. Like, and so like for all that sort of thing, the metro wasn't accessible for wheelchairs. And I just think that's so rubbish, like for a city that's hosting the Paralympics.
Yeah.
Like,
You're immediately limited.
yeah, yeah. And it's something that's can be so easy to get around if it's just considered. But you almost like need people to be advocating for that, to help people consider it, because like I said, it's not something that you would, I guess, like you wouldn't consider it day to day unless you're in that environment. But then I'd also say, so the second subtopic is like healthcare professionals. So like what I said earlier with my experience with physios, I think it's a huge opportunity for physios and healthcare professionals when they're getting children come through needing physio for disabilities, long-term conditions, for them to be able to show them that there are opportunities for them to like thrive in sport, for them to educate them on the benefits of exercise, and that's like the physical benefits, the mental health benefits, like everything like that. And also just like give the families like leaflets and stuff of different organisations that are helping accessible sport to try and get those kids into sport and help them thrive and sort of like break the barrier of they can't do things because they've got a disability.
There's a gap in the market for imaginative physios or creative physios, basically.
Yeah. Even on some of my placements that I've been on, I haven't been on any with active kids, but some of the things that I've been in, they like some physios I've experienced, they've said, oh yeah, you can't do that. And it's like, well, why can't they do that? And it's just because
it's difficult.
It's difficult. It requires more work, more thinking, like things like that. And I mean, the NHS is so pushed, but I don't think it takes too much just to be like, right, let's try and work around it. Let's go to the gym. Let's see how we can work around it. But I think there's a huge opportunity for physios and other health, like nurses, doctors, to do that. I wasn't even aware that parasport was a thing. Like, I could have been told by physios when I was younger, oh, look, you can do this. Like, here's a day that you can go and try loads of different sports. But they, like, and it's not their fault at all, but it would have been really cool if they'd have done that, because I may have got into parasport
sooner.
Yeah. And I just sort of went around my daily life and did like sport at school. I love sport, so I did it with able-bodied kids. But I do think that's a huge gap in the market.
If anyone's listening.
The third subtopic, I put rowing, but it's also like all sports coaches. And I think like you said, like it's not that difficult to make it accessible for kids to an extent. And I think like coaches need to be, I guess, more aware of that. And like there's not very many coaches that would think like you, and they also need to sort of be educated, I guess, on para sport to be able to, if there is a kid that comes along, to be like, let's work around it, but also I can put you in touch with the para sport of whatever sport that is.
Yeah, it's not so much of, it will be difficult to go to a big club and as a kid with a disability to go to a big club that isn't catering towards para sport. It's if the coach has a knowledge of where to direct people too, then it's not that there's no place for you, it's that this is the best place and they can offer you so much more than I can offer you, because this is, you know, what I'm paid to do by the national governing body, etc., etc. And this is what this place is paid to do for the national governing body, and it's having a knowledge of it or an awareness, or, you know, an open mind. I mean, it's difficult because when you're coaching, there are so many different moving parts to coaching, and you've got to be an accountant and an event organizer and a trailer driver and an emotional support individual, and have some knowledge of the sport that you're coaching. But you have an athlete that approaches you and they need more than you can give them. It takes like 5 minutes to do a Google. As long as these places are promoting themselves.
Exactly. And like, I think that's sort of what I'll then go on to, like
your next umbrella
with what it is in the media, and the perception of it in the media. But I think, like, throughout school, my coaches knew that I had a problem with my arm. I never like made a big deal out of it, and I just did sport as I could, and I never wanted it to stop me, and I never let it stop me. But there were points where I was like, oh, I can't actually run on stroke side, because I mean I could, but it's not going to go very well. And coaches knew about that, like even at uni, and no one ever said, oh, have you tried the para rowing team? And so I think that's like, there's a huge, like, that it makes me think how many kids do slip through the net. And it, especially for PR3s where it's not as visible, a lot of the kids and people that do come through are from clubs that the coaches have then picked it up and have said and directed them towards like the para rowing team. And I just think if there was more education around it, all coaches knew, then they could just like direct towards. I mean, that's like specifically in rowing, but I'm sure like in other sports it's similar. The next topic.
We'll have to put your mind map on your Instagram.
I know.
Your Instagram post.
It's like perception of disability, and I guess that is from the media, but like the stigma around it, the fact that there is like a low expectation of people with disabilities performing, like, and unfortunately I feel like that is sort of the stigma around it that's just come through from the years, and I guess like the lack of inclusion, but that's all sort of coming from the media. And so this is where my sister's lecture comes into play.
Okay, here we go.
So there was, and you think about like kids with disabilities growing up, and their media is like films and TV, and there was a study done on Disney and Pixar films. They picked out 20 films from 2008 to 2018, and out of those 20 films, 3 of the films showed disability as an ordinary thing or as a positive thing. And in the other films that had some sort of disability in, it was showing the people as objects of ridicule, showed them as like pity or like super cripple, what they called like of overcoming, or that they're evil or older age, which I just think is so bad. Like if you're thinking of kids watching, if a kid's got a disability and they're watching these films and there's only 3 out of the 20 that are showing it as a normal thing, like it's not normalized.
They're like, my only career prospect here is evil villain.
Literally. And I just think that like, it's when you think of kids like growing up watching that, like you could see how it's then like the taboo of, or like they don't have the expectation of themselves that they can go and do these things. So for the Paralympics, it's definitely underrated compared to the Olympics, and I think it's heading in such a good direction. And I think I noticed especially last year in Paris, when they were sort of being like, oh, it's the warm up for the big act of the Paralympics coming. It was really nice to have like Olympians giving shout out to the Paralympics to like show people that the competition's not over, like that sort of thing. Like it's really good, and it's definitely heading in the right direction. But in the past it has sort of been that it's been the Olympics and then the Paralympics underneath it,
Yeah.
rather than it being two equal competitions. And I just think like the Paralympics isn't showcased enough in the media, but I think it does show that people with disabilities are underrated and that they can achieve and like go to high performance. And I don't think it's showcased enough. Like the Paralympics and the showing, and Paris did an amazing job last year, but that's once every 4 years that the Olympics and Paralympics happens. We're really lucky in rowing that we do all of our competitions with the Olympic side. But say like athletics, for example, they have 2 separate world championships. And I'd love to see like the stats on how it's
like the viewing rate or like the promotion rate.
Yeah. So then another thing from my sister's lecture is that there was a study done on a US-based sport media company, and this was done in 2024, and it looked at the tweets from this company, and so there was 6,080 tweets that were pulled together, and out of those 6,080, only 126 showed disabled athletes or individuals. So that's 2.1% of the whole of the tweets. And out of those 126, only 43 were disabled athletes, and the other 83 were disabled people in the spectator areas or like in a non-athlete role.
Yeah.
So that just shows as well, like that's such a tiny amount, and that was in 2024. It's definitely heading in the right direction, but it's nowhere near what it should be, in my opinion. And like when you think of kids growing up, like media is their source of information, and if it's not showed in the media enough, it's not normalized for them. It's not a normal thing of like, oh, I'm going to go and do sports.
Yeah. It's the see it, be it mentality, isn't it? I remember the Paralympic TikToks.
Yeah.
And whoever was running, I think it was like the official Paralympic TikTok account, whoever was running that, it was so funny because they obviously had their various different disabilities, but it wasn't like, it wasn't being portrayed in a way that it was like, oh, look at this amazing person, they've defied all odds. It was just them having a sense of humor about everything and just making all of the events funny, or like any little accidents that happened, like made it so human, and it didn't alienize anyone, because it was like, this is actually so fucking funny, and like you've made this thinking it's funny. I can then look at it and be like, this is really funny.
Yeah.
And it was I would say it was better than the Olympic. I don't remember seeing any like Olympic specific TikToks like made by Paris Olympics, but I remember the Paralympic TikToks. I was like, oh my God.
It's all like a slightly dark humour, isn't it?
Yeah, it was the dark humour, but obviously everyone's got a bit of dark humour in them.
Yeah.
Like you can't be like, yes, we all need to be woke, but you can't like not at the expense of a little bit of humour all the time.
And everyone has that about themselves in like some way, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. And I had Chloe Ball on. She was a para archer, and she was talking about like hiding people's legs, drinking out of people's shins, and like all of these different things. And it makes it like less of a taboo, because it's like, obviously if you had that, you would do that. That would be funny.
It's so good. Like when I first joined the para team, people were making jokes, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure whether you can make that.
Can I laugh? Should I not?
It's just so funny, like the humour that goes around. Like I remember one of my first camps, they won't mind me saying this, but so Ben is our PL1 guy.
Sculler.
And and he was having a nap, and there was a guy on the team at the time called Dan who was visually impaired, and they had such a jokey relationship.
I remember his dog.
Yeah. They were constantly like joking on each other. And there was one time I was on camp and I just like left the room, and I see Dan going down the corridor, bearing in mind he's like completely visually impaired. I think he had like 10% of vision. And he's going down the corridor in Ben's wheelchair. And I was like, what are you doing? He was like, never mind. Like, mind your own business. Like, and Ben basically woke up from his nap. His wheelchair was completely gone. He didn't know what to do, but obviously he can't go anywhere. So he was like, what are you doing in my wheelchair? And Dan's just like going round in this chair.
Dan doesn't know where he is either.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so funny. Like the things that people do, like you like hide people's stuff. Like it is hilarious.
I remember Dan being on the team because he had his guide dog, and he was like, had to put a message into the group chat being like, can we all stop petting the guide dog? Because he's like so excited and he can't concentrate and do his job. And every time he came into the like warm up space at the National Training Centre, and there were all the tennis balls for people to like do all their mobility with, and this poor little retriever was just like losing his mind.
It was so good because he was a very good guide dog, but like he wasn't like switch on, switch off. He was like sort of a bit in the middle.
Yeah, he was.
And like every time someone would have like a tennis ball, he'd be like looking at it, and obviously Dan's got no idea. It was so good.
I remember that message going out, and I was like, oh, I can't remember what the dog was called now.
No, I can't either.
Do you have any other stats that you want to
cover?
No,
I think that's
you've covered all your notes.
Yeah, I've covered everything. I just thought it was so interesting, especially as my sister was like learning it in her lectures as well. Because obviously I'm so aware of it being within that environment, but also like people being taught
about it.
Yeah, and learning about those stats. And like I was shocked by them that I knew it wasn't equal, but I didn't like that tweets one.
Is mental.
I was shocked, like 2.1% out of this company's tweets. Both like, and you got to think like they're tweeting about sports stuff. So
yeah, it's not a good look.
Yeah,
it's not a good look. The stats that I found, if you like, was that according to Sport England, able-bodied children are 41% more likely to be involved in sport or be active at school compared to those with a disability at 20%.
There's still quite a big gap though, isn't it? Like
it is a big gap. But the Get Set Path to Paris campaign, which is Paralympics GB 2023 to 2024, managed to get 40,000 young disabled children to be physically active involved in sport. It sounds like it was very productive.
And they were like really pushing that around the Paralympics. Like they were getting like Paralympic athletes to go to schools and stuff and help kids. And like I think their thing was like they don't want any kid left on the sideline unnecessarily. Like obviously people can choose whether they want to do sport or not. You want to encourage kids to do like the basic amount of sport to be fit. But trying to sort of eliminate the barriers that are so easy to overcome by just like problem solving and working around
being slightly creative.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the rest of our questions. Putting our dying on the hill to one side, do you have a favourite moment in your sporting journey so far? Is it the Paralympics winning a gold medal, or is it something different?
I think I've got two top.
Okay, good.
So one is in Paris.
Obviously. Fair enough.
Like it'd been such a long build up. It'd been quite a tough like couple of years, and I think my favourite part wasn't actually the race, but it was having all my friends and family there, and like they had supported me in various different ways in the lead up to Paris. Like I talk about myself making sacrifices of not being able to do stuff, but they were also so understanding of that, and like they would sort of work around me as well, like to do plans. They'd work around my training, and like my family would be so supportive. And so it was so nice having them there and almost showing them that this is what they've helped like be able to achieve.
I promise it's worth it. Here we go.
It was actually the nicest thing. Like I remember crossing the finish line and I like did my little celebration, and then I just heard this like roar of noise, and I was like, it's my family. Obviously in my head I was thinking like, oh, like I thought it was my family for myself. then realistically it was probably just the whole crowd. But then we looked back and that celebration was on the TV, and turns out my family and friends were all stood by the speakers, like the microphones.
So it was actually
So
them.
actually it was my family, and it was actually that was my favourite moment, and just being on the medal pontoon and seeing them. Like, we do this training every day, like we train to race, and it's sort of, it was a huge thing, but I think it's something that they don't see all the behind the scenes, and it was just so nice that they will also almost see like the bad side, because you lean on them for support. And so just to show them that it was worth it was really nice.
Mums and dads do not hear very much from you when it's going well, but they hear a lot when it's going badly.
My parents, they've been amazing. And then I'd say my second one was probably, on reflection, it was my first year on the team, the World Championships. And I think more because it was such a novelty to be there, and we'd been told we're doing 2 events. So we were doing the mixed 4, and then G and I were also doing the PR3 women's pair. And it was my first season on the team doing 2 races. I hadn't really, because it was such a novelty, I hadn't really deeped how big it was to be doing 2 events at World Championships. And so I was just sort of like, go along, like do my best. We became world champion in both events, and I think we're both the first women to ever have
Done both.
got 2 in one event, which I was like, oh, that's so cool, but I hadn't actually deeped how deep it was. Yeah, at the time.
I hadn't actually deeped how deep it was.
Yeah, and then like that whole year just seemed like, we then got Para Crew of the Year award from World Rowing, and then I got Athlete of the Year award from British Rowing. And I think it was all just rolling so quick, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, this is so cool, oh, and I was just like loving every second of it. And it's only now that I sort of look back, that now I sort of am in the system, I know how it works.
This doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, whereas it was just such a, I think that first season I was like, oh, I'll just train with them, and then they invited me on a camp, and I was like, oh, I'll go on that camp, and then I got selected for the World Cup, and so everything was like a surprise. And now it's like, okay, I'm actually trying to maintain that. You realise how cool it was in that first year.
Yeah. Being slightly naive is a lovely place to be sometimes. Do you have this is kind of bringing you right back down, but do you have a best fuck up that you'd be happy to disclose on the podcast?
So it was a sequence of events. When I was at uni, I got glandular fever.
My brother got glange as well. Yeah, uni.
Classic glange. But that was like as COVID stuff were lifting.
Okay.
So my first year at Brooks, I rowed, but it was when you could only have 6 people in that room, and you had to book your erg slot, and like there wasn't much. It was sort of quite miserable, wasn't it? Like you went in, you did your erg, and then you left, and then you couldn't really be on the water during the deep bits of it. And then as soon as things started opening up and we were able to do a bit more social stuff, I got glandular fever. But I think the sequence of events that was the fuck up was, instead of me being like, right, I really need to recover from this, I thought, brilliant, pubs are opening, clubs are opening. I was like, I'm not allowed to row, like I'm physically not allowed to row. So I just did not rest. I think I did, because it was 6 weeks you're meant to do without exercise because of spleen.
Something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
High risk of something.
Not a doctor, but
yeah, it was around something like that. So I was like, brilliant, I've got 6 weeks without rowing. And I think because I've been so cooped up in COVID, I'd had my 18th birthday in COVID, all that sort of thing, and then pubs were opening, I was allowed to like legally drink. And I mean, the pubs were still shutting at 10 p.m, so it was
mental.
Yeah, it wasn't that wild, but that definitely pushed me back. So then the 6 weeks were up, and I felt fine, like I didn't feel horrific. But then I tried to go back to exercise, and I did 10 minutes on a bike, and I remember literally being like, I can't. I
You're like
cannot.
seeing stars.
Yeah. And then that made me realise how I had fucked up the recovery for it. So it did take me a while it was that like chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get over that.
I was going to say uni illness is no joke, because you're away from mum and dad, you got the sniffles, you got the runs, whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I just want my mum.
Got some home cooked food.
And all you got
Not
is
just no pasta.
yeah, I was going to say all you got is a pot noodle.
Yeah.
A pot noodle and a
The
lemsip.
nutritionist.
Oh God! All your flatmates are like sniffing and
Yeah.
there's wet washing everywhere, and it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, yeah.
Who is it? Someone was saying we all really take for granted being able to breathe through each nostril, and then when you can't, you're like.
Honestly, I've had that this week. Like, I've had a cold this last week. And honestly, going to bed at night, I was like, I didn't realise I breathed through my nose, but like I can't breathe right now. And it really was. I was like, I'll take for granted breathing through both nostrils.
Never again. Oh, what was my other question that I need to ask you? Yes, that was it. Do you have a piece of advice that changed the game for you, or a top tip?
One, be stubborn, because that's always seen as such a bad thing. But I think being stubborn is like being determined. But like when people say you can't do something, if you want to do it, like do it.
Yeah.
Within reason. But I remember there was like once when I was younger, I was sat down at the village pub with a friend, and this this gonna sound so stupid, but this drunk lady came out and she came and sat down with us, and she was like, "You guys are so youthful." And she was like, "You've got your whole life ahead of you." And she said, "You know, what you've got to do is you've just got to shoot for the moon, and if you don't find the moon, you fall on the stars or something." And at the time, we were like, "Okay, yeah, cool," and we were sort of like. The whole time we were then like joking after that, being like, just got to shoot for the moon. But actually, I think that has sort of stuck with me. Like that lady, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know who that lady was. Otherwise, I would go to her now and be like, that's actually stuck with me for years and years and years. But I think that's so true. Like, you've just got to, like, if you've got a goal, you've just got to go for it. And if it doesn't work out, but you've tried, you've tried, and there will always be something that comes of it.
You'll always be a little bit further on,
Yeah.
as if you hadn't tried.
Yeah, and it might open more things that you wouldn't have necessarily considered before.
That's a good one. Shout out Doreen
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah. Doreen from the village.
Yeah, whatever you. Bless her. It's always the women. They've always got a good one-liner for you.
I literally remember it so vividly. We must have been like 12.
It's a formative moment, being in the village pub when you're maybe not supposed to be, and then
yeah. Just with our cokes outside, and then like this lady stumbles out.
Oh, it's so special. We talked about this sort of off mic, if you like. But if you were going to change something about your sport or sport in general, what would it be, or what do you think we could improve on?
I think it sort of follows on from what Anna said in the podcast.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago. I think it's within most sports. I think they need to tighten up on safeguarding protocols and guidelines, and I think that would just protect so many things. Like, unfortunately, we're seeing more in the media, things are coming out, and I think sports need to start becoming more proactive to stuff rather than reacting to things when it comes to them.
Yeah.
And putting things in place to try and prevent things from happening.
Yeah. So for context, in Anna's podcast, which you can go back and listen to, it was on endometriosis, ocean rose, and a wake-up call for coaches. She talks about how she felt that coaches, if you're working with female athletes, should have a basic understanding of women's health on a basic level. And that kind of falls into the topic of welfare that we're sort of discussing, of have that knowledge. If you're an S&C coach, you would go and learn more about S&C to be better at your craft. If you're a rowing coach, you would maybe go to rowing seminars to get better learning things about rowing. If you're a football coach, you would be going to football seminars, rugby seminars, whatever it is. You're always trying to broaden your knowledge of how to be better at something. And like you said, there have been many occasions recently where sports, and this isn't just specific to rowing, but they have fallen short on their welfare protocols, and it's firefighting in like putting out little fires instead of preventing things from happening in the first place.
Yeah.
And sort of go back to, I did a very short interview over the summer, but it's the athletes that end up suffering. Like, yes, the club's reputation or the national governing body's reputation is damaged in the media, but at the end of the day, it is the women or the people that have actually experienced this thing that are left with this huge psychology bill, like training, anxiety, like all of this other stuff. And, you know, they haven't necessarily been dragged in the media like the club has, and they're sort of doing damage control, if you like, but they have all of these other demons, and it's actually happened to them. It's not happened to the club, it's happened to them. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you on that one.
I think there needs to be, this is me just like thinking, there needs to be some sort of like accountability for how clubs and sports deal with it. So, like, for example, on my physio placements, you have to, and like within the NHS, you have to document everything because there can be spot checks from the governing body, whatever the equivalent would be, to make sure they have done things properly and that the right protocols were followed. And there's good clinical reasoning, all that sort of stuff. It just makes me wonder whether there's the equivalent for things within sport, like problems or complaints that are like brought up, whether there's like a spot check from the national governing body, whether that's UK Sport, Sport England, whatever, whether they do spot checks to be like, right, okay, this has come up. How did you deal with it? Just almost as like a learning. And I think if there's not, there should be. If there is already, great. But I do think it should be tightened up just because of what we hear in the media. Unfortunately, things do happen, and you can't stop those things from happening, but it's how you react to it and how you deal with it to cause the least impact.
It is definitely something that is happening in all sports. I think sports that have maybe had their wrists slapped earlier, like years and years ago, like are maybe much tighter now. And then sports that don't always get as much media attention, so like rowing or kayaking or trampoline, like just pulling sports out of my arse here, but like sports that get attention every 4 years fall under the radar. Their welfare policies are only examined, if you like, every 4 years. Or for example, when the boat race comes up and people try and like dig up information and then release it just before the boat race, and it's all sort of brushed under the carpet. And it's I agree. My one bit of advice on this topic of welfare or issues within clubs and sports is write it down and send it in an email. I would sort of go to your welfare officer first, but if it is written down on an email, then it is dated. And you have a track record, then there is a paper trail. And then if something like a spot check came through, you can be able to be like, I flagged this.
And it helps the sport as well.
It helps everyone. Helps everyone. My final question, which is a very easy one, is what song are you listening to in the gym at the moment?
Oh God, it actually changes every week.
That's okay. What's the soundtrack of this week?
The soundtrack of this week is the whole Somba's new album, the whole album. I've listened to it on repeat. And I think because when we went out to China, I didn't know whether we'd have data. And I was like, I just need to download some songs. And I downloaded that album and I just listened to it on repeat the whole time. So that is the soundtrack, not of, well, I guess the last like month.
That's good. I was listening to Lily Allen's new album on the way up in the car.
Is it good?
It is good, but unfortunately or fortunately, all of like my very close friends at the moment are either in incredibly happy relationships or they're all single, and so there's no like
in between.
There's no in between. So like this album is a breakup album from her husband. And I was like driving along, and I was like, yeah, and then I was like, I actually have nowhere to. I can't direct this emotion to anyone at the moment. So, let me know if you need me to direct any of my anger from Lily Allen's albums your way.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, no, it is a good one. I don't know if it'd be a good training one, maybe for like a chilled weight session or like a steady bike. But it's definitely, I think my favourite is Pussy Palace. Yeah. When we're done, look it up.
I'll listen to that.
So that is all of our questions. You have completed the podcast. If people want to follow you on your Paralympic journey to LA 28, because I think that's the plan, touch wood at the moment, where can they find you on Instagram, social media?
Instagram, my name
My name is
my name is Frankie Allen with 2 E's. Yeah, that's basically what I post on.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I don't have much else.
TikTok is hard.
Yeah.
TikTok requires a lot of energy.
Shit dance on TikTok, but nothing serious.
And you've just started the 2026 season. When will you be sort of on our screens next? Do you know, or TBC?
I'm not sure. The champs is August.
I don't know why you're looking at me. I'm a wag. I've got no responsibility.
You should know these bits.
I think it is in August.
Yeah,
and
time,
hopefully. Yeah, and it'll be on World Rowing. Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to get better at my outros. They're not getting any better. That's all. Yeah, exactly. That's all, folks. Thanks for listening. And if you want to follow Frankie on Instagram, give her a follow, drop her a message. I doubt she's doing much in between sessions apart from sleeping. So she'll have all the time in the world. Well, goodbye. See you next week.